Next, we'll work on the enemy movement system. First, let's open the enemy blueprint and click on Open Full Blueprint Editor. And we'll drag this and dock it here. And now, the first thing we'll do is we'll create a new function. By default, when you create a new blueprint, you have these three functions here. The begin play, which always runs when the game starts. And then there is actor begin overlap. This I'll explain later, where it has something to do with collisions. And then event tick. And this happens basically every frame. So any kind of function you want to run at every frame, you'll pass it through here. For now, let's move these two down here. And we want to create a new function. So we'll right click and type in add custom event. And then we'll call this move around. In Unreal Engine, when we create functions inside of the event graph, they're called event, and that's why we just create a custom event. But they're basically all functions, and then there's the typical style of functions where you can create them through here, down there, which I'll explain later on as well. So for now, we'll take this, and we'll drag from this, and type in AI move to, and then we'll select this one. And this function will basically make the character move around. But before it can work, we have to pass through a pawn. So here we'll drag this backwards and then type in self. Basically self means that it will get the blueprint that we are in right now, which is the enemy one. So we click that. And now when we press play, nothing will happen because we have to first run this function. So we'll do it through begin play. So we'll type in move around and then we'll save, compile, and then press play again. And now, once again, the enemy doesn't move around either. Now I'll explain why this is happening. So in the map, an enemy can't just move around anywhere because programming wise, it doesn't know what's going on. Like where's what, how do you go up ramps and stuff. And basically you have to create something that tells it how to go around. So Unreal Engine has this very basic thing. If you go here, you can add new assets to the scene and we'll look for nav mesh bounds volume. And basically, I'll show you here, if I place it around here and scale it up a bit. Now you can't see anything right now, but if I press the P button, it will reveal the nav mesh. And nav mesh is basically a mesh that gets generated where it will basically help any character AI in the game to know how to walk around and go places. And so if we move this to the center of the map and then just scale it up a bit more like this and basically cover the entire map, now we have it all generate a nav mesh for the entire map. And so now the enemy will know where to go around. And if we press play, now we'll see the enemy going. But we have a new issue now. As you saw just now, he always just keeps walking to the center. The reason for that is back in the blueprint, basically the destination is written as 000, which is basically the center of this map. And so we want the enemy to be walking around. And one way to do that is to use a special function that gets a random point around the enemy. So we'll drag this here. And so we'll get a new function, and this one will be called get random location in navigatable radius. And basically this function will get a random location that an enemy can also navigate to in a specified radius. So we'll move this a little bit here and put the radius to 1000. And for now, it won't know where the radius is, so we'll have to give it a location. So we'll get actually the current location of the enemy. So from here, we'll drag this and then get actor location. And this will basically get the location of an actor. And by the way, all of this time, we're using these yellow nodes, just like earlier as well, over here. And these are basically vectors, which are 3 floats combined to specify a position in the world. And that's basically how everything in 3D works. And so now with this, it will get us a random point, and it will output that right here. And so we'll have to take this and connect it to here. And now when we save and compile, and we press play, we'll start to see the enemy going around to random spots. Let's see that again. And then again. Yep, every time it's a different place. And now let's go back to the map And let's make a couple more enemies. Let's turn on snap to have better positioning. And so I'll copy that and then select both of them, copy them, select all 4 of them, and then copy them again. And yeah, now we have all these enemies, and we press play, and they all are going different places. But they're all stopping now after they reach their destination. And so we want to change that. So here, in the AI move to, you can see this kind of clock here. The reason this is here and not on any other function is basically this means that this function doesn't just run and finish all in one frame. There's a time with it. So it can finish after several frames, seconds, minutes even. So it all depends on that. Whereas the normal functions, which don't have this clock on it, they all finish instantly. And they all happen all in one frame. And because this runs over several frames, it has these different outputs that run after a certain thing has happened. So in this case, after the enemy AI has reached its destination, this will start running. And in case something goes wrong, this would run. So in both cases, we want to call move around once again. And basically what this will do is when the AI moves around and it reaches its destination or something else happens, it will again, after that, call move around, which will then just start the function again. And this will basically be a loop. And this way we have created a very basic AI loop. So now let's save and compile and then press play. And see, now we see them all walking around. But they're walking around a little bit too frantically. And so let's add a small delay before they start moving around again. So in here, we'll pull out and we'll call it a delay. And this is a very basic function. As you can see here, it has the clock again, which again, this means that it doesn't immediately end in the same frame. And it has kind of a timer with it. And this function especially is a timer where after a certain duration, in which case we can put 2 seconds, after that ends, then it executes the next function. This is very useful and we'll be using it a lot. So we'll connect the success and fail again with those two, save, compile, and then press play again. And now you can see them all stopping and then going around and then stopping and then going around and then stopping and then going around and stopping and so on. And so we've created a very basic enemy AI that just walks around. And this is actually quite common for simple NPCs and such. And in our case, this is an enemy AI, so we'll be adding other functions later on as well for attacking and other such things. But we have one more issue right now where they're moving a little bit too fast. So let's go back to the enemy. And we've explained this before with the character movement, where we can change the max speed right here from 600 to, for example, 300. And then save that, compile, press play again. And yeah, I think this is a much better speed. This is going to be very important later on because if their speed was 600, they would be going too fast for us and we can't like run away and they'll always chase and catch up to us. And finally, we will just zoom out, select all of the function we just created, press C, and then call it move around to keep things organized. I will pull it down a little bit, save, compile, close this. And that's it for this lesson.